وعليكم السلام. الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء فاتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I intend to talk to you about a very complicated concept in Islamic legal thinking called maslaha mursala, also under the Maliki school of thought as istislah. But what I want to share with you an ayah from the Quran. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahu waliyul amanu yukhrijuhum min az-zulumati ila an-nur wal-ladhina kafaru awliya'uhum at-taghut yukhrijunahum min an-nur ila az-zulumat ulaika ashabun nar hum fiha khalidun. In this ayah, which is in the second chapter of Surah Al-Baqarah, the verse number is 257, the Quran says, Bismillah, Allah waliyul ladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min az-zulumati ila an-nur. That God is the friend. God is the friend of those who believe, and as a reward for that belief, or as a condition of that belief, He extracts them from darkness and brings them into light. And I find this statement very profound because to me it links belief with enlightenment. Which means that if you are a true believer, you must be a very enlightened person. And if you are not enlightened, then perhaps there is something unfinished in the project of your belief. And the verse also implies that the opposite is true, that those of you who do not believe in God, God does not befriend them, but they are befriended by false ideologies, false gods, sometimes even nationalism, and this ism and that ism, and they become loyal to these ideologies, and these ideologies only take them away from enlightenment into darkness, from a position where they would believe in the good of everyone to a position where they would believe in the good of their in-group. And what is also important here is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He's not just talking about believers, but He's talking about befriending these believers. So who are these believers? Who are these enlightened people? Who are they? What are the characteristics of these enlightened people? All religions use a lot of play with the idea of light. So light and darkness are common metaphors in discussion of religions, nearly all religions that at least I know of. In the Quran itself and within the Muslim thought, it also has special places. For example, you know the verse where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the light of the heavens and the earth. We also believe that perhaps the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was created from the light of God, and the universe is also created from that extended light of God. But who are these people who are enlightened, and how do we recognize them? There are many ways. Across the Quran, you will find that God consistently refers to people who believe as people who think. People who believe as people who use their reason. People who think as people who are enlightened. It has never separated intellectual development from spiritual development. The Quran has always integrated intellectual development with spiritual development. For example, in verse 35 from chapter 29, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَقَدْ تَرَكْنَا مِنْهَا آيَةً بَيِّنَةً لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. And God said that we have certainly left a sign, a clear evidence for people who use reason. And I found here the way the verse is phrased quite fascinating. It says that God has left clear signs for those to perceive, but He uses it in a collective sense. لِقَوْمٍ يَعْقِلُونَ. It is for those people, that tribe, that nation, that collective group which uses reason. The point that I'm trying to make here is that while individual reasoning is encouraged as part of spiritual growth, as part of enlightenment, God also speaks of reason in a collective sense. So how are we to use reason collectively? And we use our reason collectively through our public actions, through our institutions, through our politics, through our struggles for social justice. That is where we must use our public reason. That is where we must recognize that these two aspects of faith, which is a belief in God that comes from the heart and the use of reason that comes from the brain, so to speak, is essential. You cannot separate one of the two, which also is another way of looking that you cannot separate the realm of ibadat from the realm of muamalat. So you cannot be spiritually private and publicly inactive. You cannot be intelligent, thoughtful, and rational in matters of spirituality alone without using the same apple, the same reason publicly. In Surah Al-Imran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something very similar but in a slightly different way. I have talked about it before extensively from this minbar, so I will only briefly remind all of us about these two ayats of Surah Al-Imran. In which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wa nahari la ayatil li ulil albab. Indeed, in the creation of the heavens and the earth, indeed in the rotations of the day and the night, there are signs for those who understand. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is actually making, for those who are scientists here, an empirical argument. He says, look at this creation that I have created. Heavens and the earth, this is a really terrible translation of the Quranic ayah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Fi khalqis samawat wal ard. When he's talking about wal ard, it doesn't necessarily mean earth. It is everything that is materially existence. And when he's talking about samawat, it is a realm of spirituality. The realm in which angels and God and heaven. So God has created these two realms and He expects that we reflect upon this. And he says there are signs in this for those of us who are ulul albab. So who are these people, ulul albab, the people of understanding? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the very first to define who people of understanding truly are. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض ربنا ما خلقت هذا باطلا سبحانك فقنا عذاب النار. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying these people of understanding, these people who use their reason and their aql are the ones who remember God while standing, while sitting, and while lying down on their side. So what he's saying is people of understanding, people who use their reason are constantly aware of the presence of God. It does not necessarily mean have us be in your hand and constantly doing zikr. Zikr of Allah can be understood by trying to conceptualize the opposite, which is ghafla, to be someone who is forgotten for a moment that there is a God. So the whole idea in this verse is saying that you remember God constantly. It doesn't mean that you sit down there and chant His name and disconnect yourself from the world that you live in. That is not the point. The idea is to be constantly aware of the presence of God. While I was driving here, I was trying desperately to think of an example as to how to explain to you to be constantly aware of the presence of God without chanting. And I just remembered a very simple example. Sometimes I go this long distance driving and either my wife, my son or my daughter is sitting with me in front of the car and they usually sleep. And I'm the one who's driving. Sometimes I'm listening to music. Sometimes because they need to sleep, I'm just reflecting on things. Even though I don't look at them sometimes for hours and they are sleeping and they're not speaking to me, I am constantly aware of their presence. And to me, the most comforting thought is that I'm not alone in the car. And that is what being aware of God's presence is, that you are never alone in this world, and recognize that. So God is saying that those who believe are those who do zikr all the time. But He adds something to it. He says not only are those who do zikr, while they are remembering me, they are reflecting on my creation, reflecting in this world. It doesn't necessarily mean from just the Shari perspective. Even if you're a scientist, you're reflecting on how the gravity works. The Nobel Prizes are being announced, and if you go and read the 3 American scientists who got the Nobel Prize for Physics, look at their discovery. It is so fascinating. It tells you the secrets of God's creation, about the nature of the universe. The space is not straight and curved, something that Albert Einstein claimed 100 years ago has now been proven correct. So this is also a form of fikr on God's creation. So God is saying that people of understanding are those who have these 2 attributes, who remember God, are aware of God, and also reflect and use their reason in the created realm of God. And use this reason in a collective sense, in a public sense, and not in a private sense. So you're not limiting the use of aql to the realms of ibadat or personal piety, but you're also bringing it into the realm of muamalat and realms of siyasat also. And that is an important part. So today I want to submit to you that perhaps the true believer is one who combines these 2 and manifests them by not only reflecting, but articulating and pursuing the common good. So what is the common good? Or in another word, what is public interest? Muslim scholars have come up with this concept of maslaha or maslaha mursala. Maslaha basically means public interest. Maslaha mursala means unrestricted public interest. This comes from the Maliki school of thought, which had a concept called istislah. So it's very similar to ijtihad. Ijtihad is a comment or a process where you think about what is the right thing to do when both the Quran and the Hadith, or Quran and Sunnah, have not spoken. For a very simple example, there's nothing in the Quran that says thou shalt not smoke pot. and there is no hadith which says thou shalt not smoke pot. So does it mean you can? No, the answer is no. Certainly not, young fellas. Even if it is legal, you are not allowed to smoke pot. And how do you do this? Is through the process of ijtihad. You go back and say, why did God forbid alcohol? You forget, because it's not alcohol that is forbidden, it's intoxication that's forbidden. So anything that intoxicates you is forbidden, and if smoking pot intoxicates you, then that is also forbidden. This is how you do ijtihad. But this is a specific application of the practical side of ijtihad. Maslaha is a philosophical argument as which justifies the use of ijtihad. And clearly, it is not there in the Quran. There are attempts to extract, and I will give you one or two examples from the Quran, and you will realize that they are not exactly the verses which you would have thought validate and justify the use of the concept and the practice and the approach of maslaha to Islamic law. However, the biggest example that Muslim scholars have given of the correct and justifiable use of the concept of public interest is the creation of the Khulafa. So as soon as Prophet Muhammad ﷺ died, we know that the caliphate came into existence. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu became the first widely guided caliph. There is no precedent. There is no commands from the Prophet ﷺ on how to do it and what to do, what to call him. And there is nothing in the Quran. So how did this come about? Instantaneous ijtihad. Later on, Umar ibn Faruq radiallahu anhu, later on talks about it that it just happened when he was asked for it. He said it just happened. He was implying that there was divine guidance there, but nevertheless, this happening of this instantaneously, it happened because a significant majority of companions who were there recognized that the common good can only be pursued by the creation of an institution like the Khulafa. There are many other examples. For example, the most controversial aspect of maslaha is the claim by scholars who advocate maslaha. All three schools of Hanafi school of law, of the Sunni school of law, which is Hanafi, Maliki, and Hanbali, subscribe to the idea of maslaha. Ibne Abdul Wahhab, the founder of what is now called as Wahhabism, also resorted to the arguments based on maslaha. It's the Shafi'is who are very reluctant, but they also accept maslaha in a slightly restricted fashion. So the most controversial aspect of this concept of maslaha is the belief that the pursuit of common good is so important and so significant and so necessary that we can even suspend the direct nas from the Sharia sources in pursuit. So for example, if there is something in the Quran which specifically says do X, Y, Z, and there is something in the Hadith literature which explicitly says very clearly, unequivocally, there's no doubt about it, says do X, Y, Z. But if you perceive that at that moment in time it is against the public interest, then you can pursue what is in the public interest and suspend what is ordered in the religious text explicitly. And the example that is often cited by scholars who defend this is when Hazrat Umar suspended the had punishments during a famine. So the had punishment, as you know, is you cut off the hand of the thief, and Hazrat Umar suspended that during a period of famine. So what he did was he used the philosophy of maslaha, public interest, to suspend the specific commandments of the text. There is no other way you can explain why he did that. And how did he do that? What is the Shara'i justification for that particular judgment? He did not abolish it. He temporarily put a moratorium on that particular had punishment because of the context we live in. Later on, Imam al-Ghazali in the 11th century consolidated this concept and essentially said, he did something very fascinating. He tied it to the maqasid of Sharia. And a lot of scholars since then have been saying that the purpose of Islamic Sharia, the reason why God revealed these divine laws, is to protect 5 things. So the purpose of Islamic Sharia, the maqasid of Islamic Sharia, is to protect 5 things. The first and the foremost is deen, and then life, mal, that is your wealth, your nasab, which is your family, your relation, etc., and other. So the 5 things that the Sharia of Islam protects is life, property, association, akhir, and religion. Now these are the 5 things. And Imam al-Ghazali argues that there are 3 ways in which you can protect them, as zaruriyat or hajiyat or tahsiniyat, as something that is necessary, something that is needful, and something that can be embellishing. For example, in order to make sure that everybody's religion is protected, we will need to have a constitutional belief that there is such a thing as religious freedom. That would be the maslaha, the common good that people would do. So the way you protect people's religion is by giving them freedom to practice their faith. That would be under the Daruriyat. But if you want to also talk about desires, you could come up with specific laws saying that in the month of Ramadan, when people are fasting, no company, no employer can prevent Muslims from working while they are fasting. So if you see that's the broader principle where you protect religion, then you get to specific laws to protect specific. And then you could also come up with a law and say that Muslims are encouraged to give charity. So we would pass a law which says that those who give zakat, their zakat will be exempted from taxes, which is a way of the state encouraging. But the most important thing that came out of this concept of common good and maslaha is creation of the public sphere, the creation of the state through which we have these policies. And that is something that I want you all to think about. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, and this is from Surah 29 and verse 78, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ. Struggle in the path of God. The word here is jihad, to do jihad. Struggle in the path of God as God deserves your struggle in His path. وَجَاهِدُوا فِي اللَّهِ حَقَّ جِهَادِهِ هُوَ أَجْتَبَاءَكُمْ وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. But the second part of that verse is so fascinating. He says, and strive for God, strive in the path of God as He expects you to strive. And then He says He has chosen for you a path that has not placed upon you a difficulty in your religion. So it's a very interesting contradiction, sort of. It says that you should do your best, but also says it's not difficult on you, it's become easy. So there are several verses in the Quran where it says, like in when the commandment for fasting came, that Allah does not expect to put you in burden. The last verse of Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah Ta'ala does not burden a soul without first giving them the capacity to face that burden. All these questions, these comments in the Quran, which talk about the religion being easy, has been used by the ulama to justify the concept of maslaha, which means that they understood public interest as a way of articulating those rules, those laws, and those policies. So what is the Islamic definition of maslaha mursala? It's very simple. What it says is every action, every policy, every decision that people in power make in order to increase benefit and decrease harm. So there is a very important hadith, all of you probably know, La darar wa la dirar. There is no harm done in Islam and no harm should be responded. So neither should we do harm nor should we stand by while harm is done. So the purpose of Islamic Sharia is to reduce harm and to increase benefit. So that is exactly what maslaha becomes. So you make public policy with the explicit purpose of increasing the good of everyone and reducing the harm to everyone. It is the same as saying Amr bil Ma'ruf wa Nahy anil Munkar. The purpose of Islamic law, the purpose of Muslim activism is to encourage good and forbid evil. So these are some of the principles that went out of, and I'm going to give you one example, another one, where this concept of unrestricted public interest maslaha was used. Again, during the time of the Khulafā ar-Rashidun, the reason why we go and look for examples in that period is because most Muslims, as Sunnis, do not contest the legitimacy of these policies, and therefore the philosophy is justified by the legitimacy of those specific policies. And one of them is the pension system that Hazrat Umar instituted while he was a caliph. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulullah. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Inna allaha wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi. Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Talking about public interest, I have to tell you that there is some rumor in this masjid that our elections last week were hacked by the Russians. We have no proof that Russia is involved, but we suspect that the Russians hacked our elections, so we are doing it again this week. Those of you who took your ballots home and brought the ballots back, please give them to Dr. Naveed, or I think you should give to Dr. Naveed. Everybody else who is responsible in this masjid is on the ballot, so it's not fair to give some of the contestants their ballot. If you forgot your ballot last time, doesn't matter. We have a lot of ballots there. You can see Dr. Naveed holding all the ballots. So go ahead there and do that. This is your moral duty, remember, participate in these elections. Because you attend this mosque, you are a member of this mosque, and so if decisions are made later on by this board and this committee for which you abstain from voting, and if those decisions are wrong and they are against the principles of Islam and they are against the public good, then let me tell you, you are equally guilty, because you could have participated, you could have become a voice, and you chose not to participate. You cannot choose to get out of the game. This is one thing that God has done. He's created this universe and thrown you, and you cannot say, God, I'm not going to play. That's not allowed. So you have to play, and yes, whether you like the rules or not, do engage in it. This is a great opportunity. This is a new mosque, mashallah, it's growing fast and rapidly. Participate in it. Shape the destiny of your community. Participate in it. Define what is the public good in this, not just in this. The Muslim community, alhamdulillah, growing rapidly in the state of Delaware. We will become a political voice. We will become a social voice. We will become an important part of the culture. Don't stay out of it. There are two kinds of people. Those who follow the stream and go wherever it goes. Then there are those who become agents of change, and they give direction to their time and to their society. And I want all of you to do that. Amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. This committee will be participating in such decision making, so please seek to join. So why was I giving you such an abstract lecture on Masla? Because I feel that in our country today, we are compromising common good. In the United States, we don't have to sell the idea of common good, at least with the political theories. The whole idea of a commonwealth is based on the idea of common good. In other parts of the world, when we talk of Sharia, sometimes we talk about what is good only for Muslims. But America is not based on what is only good for Christians or Jews. America is based on the idea of what is good for all of us. But unfortunately, when you look at gun laws, who in the world can say it is in the interest of the common good that people can buy 40 guns? I mean, the man in Las Vegas, if he had waited 3 more weeks, he would have had silencers legally available to him. The Congress was going to provide. He's not a lone wolf. People like him have been supported and enabled by our own Congress, which makes sure that it is as easy as possible to have these guns. Is it in the interest of the common good? No. So what is compromising this idea of the common good or these public interests is that this country is now proliferating with special interests. Whether you're looking at guns, whether you're looking at healthcare, whether you're looking at foreign policy, any of the things which the world's richest country should be able to provide to its citizens, we find special interest constantly undermining public interest. I want the Muslims of America to also become a special interest whose goal is to pursue the common good. Listen to me again. I want American Muslims in this country to become a force for good, for the common good. We want you all to grow up and become a force for the common good. We are just 2% or less of this population. We need to become a force that will, a special interest group whose goal is to achieve common good and public interest. That is our responsibility. We will have to answer God on the day of judgment as to what we do. We cannot remain bystanders. I don't know whether you heard this hadith. Every time there is a divorce in a neighborhood, God is going to hold 40 homes in each direction responsible for their divorce. So if you have a house and you have a divorce in this house, 40 homes in each direction, God is going to hold an house. How did you allow this family to bring? Now, of course, we have issues of privacy, etc., so I can't go and worry about that. But the philosophy is this, that if there is violence in Las Vegas or in Florida or elsewhere, even though we live in Delaware, God is going to hold us accountable, and He will want to know, what did we do to pursue the good? What did we do to make religion safe in this country? What did we do to protect people's life? What did we do to protect people's property? The 5 maqasid of the Sharia. So that is important. The whole point of talking about maslaha is to understand that maslaha is one of the most fundamental goals of Islamic Sharia, that is to encourage what is good and to forbid what is evil. Amr bil ma'ruf wa nahy anil munkar. So from an individual perspective, that is our manifestation. From a collective purpose, it is our job to make that which is beneficial stronger and that which harms collectively weaker. I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the opportunity, the wisdom, the courage to become a force for the common good. I also pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives us the intellect, the wisdom, and the hikmah to understand the true meaning of our faith. And also understand the true responsibilities that our faith imposes on us as believers towards the rest of the world. God is very forgiving. He will forgive us if we have been lax in matters of ibadah. But I'm not very sure He will be as forgiving when it comes to mu'amalas. When there are people suffering in Myanmar, and we are sitting here and watching movies and doing nothing, I think we'll have to explain to God that God is going to say, I gave you safety, I gave you security, I gave you prosperity, I gave you voice, what did you do? I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He brings us all close to Him. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اذكروا الله ذكرا كثيرا ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقيموا الصلاة.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله. Stop. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. ويقولون طاعة فإذا برزوا من عندك بيت طائفة منهم غير الذي تقول والله يكتب ما يبيتون فأعرض عنهم وتوكل على الله وكفى بالله وكيلا أفلا يتدبرون القرآن ولو كان من عند غير الله لوجدوا فيه اختلافا كثيرا. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. وإذا جاءهم أمر من الأمن أو الخوف أذاعوا به ولو ردوه إلى الرسول وإلى أولي الأمر منهم لعلمه الذين يستنبطونه منهم ولولا فضل الله عليكم ورحمته لاتبعتم الشيطان إلا قليلا فقاتل في سبيل الله لا تكلف إلا نفسك وحرض المؤمنين عسى الله أن يكف بأس الذين كفروا والله أشد بأسا وأشد تنكيلا. الله سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.